Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm sure by now most of you have heard about this situation involving rapper Dababy and his former girlfriend Danileigh. And I'm going to provide like a brief synopsis of the situation, and then I'm going to provide some commentary. I want to talk about some lessons that can be learned from this particular situation. So you had the baby get on Instagram. He did an Instagram live, and during that live stream, he was very disrespectful to Danileigh. Danileigh recently gave birth to his child, and he was making some disrespectful remarks. He basically said that they were never in a relationship, that she was some side B, um, and he actually kicked her out of his house live on Instagram. And also, he eventually called the police because he claimed that she would not leave, and she was charged with simple assault, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so a lot of people have been talking about this situation, and I just want to talk about a few lessons that can be learned from this whole situation. The first and most obvious lesson is that people need to be far more selective in who they decide to date, who they decide to be in relationships with, and most importantly, who they decide to have children with. Because here you have a man that has zero respect for this woman. Like, even if your relationship is over, if you have some kind of respect for someone, you would not treat them the way that the baby treated this woman. This woman just gave birth to his child, and he's calling her all kinds of B's. He's saying that they're not in a relationship, that she was some side B, quote unquote, just showing complete disrespect. And from what I understand, he's shown her disrespect before, but yet and still this woman is still with him. And that shows you like about poor selection, choices that some women are making. And then it's poor selection on his part as well. Because if he feels like she's such a bad woman and, he has no respect for her, then he shouldn't have put himself in a situation where this person is now the mother of his child. And you see a lot of this, like a lot of situations where these guys have all these multiple baby mothers, like mini baby mothers and stuff like that. Um, and, it's just an example of a lack of selectivity, and it's also a lack of self discipline as well. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out. One lesson that can be learned. And then another lesson that can be learned is this whole thing about these women getting in these relationships with these toxic bad boys. Now, you see a lot on social media, you see a lot of women, for instance, on TikTok, making all these disrespectful videos towards quote unquote nice guys and talking about how much they love the toxic uh, bad boy and all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of memes on here. And I think that there's a lot of truth to those memes, even though they're joking around and being lighthearted. Some women are just drawn to quote unquote thugs and toxic men. And these same women that are drawn to these types of men are the same types of women that will complain about the lack of quality men when they literally leapfrog over quality, quote unquote, quality men, or educated men or whatever to pursue these thugs and stuff. To pursue people that are, that are criminals or former criminals and all that kind of stuff because they're caught up into the this image of the thug. They're attracted to that. They're drawn to that quote unquote thug, that quote unquote hood person and all that kind of stuff. They're attracted to the Pookies and Ray Rays, and then when the Pookies and Ray Rays and thugs treat them with disrespect, they want to complain. They want to talk about how there's no good men out here. And it's just funny. I mean, again, you see example after example, all on TikTok, for instance, with these women talking about they can't be with a guy because he's too nice or something like that. And I find that to be, hilarious. I find that to be a symbol or an example of how dysfunctional and how just ass backwards a lot of women are, unfortunately. So that's one point that I wanted to make. Another point is this, like another lesson that can be learned from this is you should never tolerate disrespect. Never tolerate disrespect, man. Regardless of the situation, you should never find yourself in a situation where you're putting up with someone disrespecting you, calling you all out of your name, uh, just completely violating you. In that type of situation, obviously you need to get out of that situation. You should not waste your time with people that have no love or any respect for you. Like in this situation, where this man is calling this woman all out her name, kicking her out, treating her like trash and all that kind of stuff, making her into a complete joke all on social media. Nobody should put up with that. And disrespect takes various forms. Like there are people that will name call, or people that just don't show you the kind of respect that you deserve in a relationship, and you should never put up with that, regardless of what kind of status this person quote unquote has, or regardless of their wealth and all that kind of stuff. And that brings me to another point, and that's about like the trappings of this world. Like a lot of times people will be so enamored or so caught up or so drawn to these superficial things, like in terms of somebody's status, in terms of somebody's fame or their wealth and stuff like that. This is a prime example that wealth doesn't make the man. Having wealth and having fame doesn't make somebody a quality partner. What about somebody's personality? What about their character? What about their values? This guy obviously is not some quality person. And as many people know, this guy literally killed somebody. Um, but because of his fame, because of his fortune, there will be plenty of women that will line up to be with this man, even after seeing this disrespectful video out here. There are women that are lined up to be with this guy and other men like him. Um, another example of this would be that artist Future. One of the most, the guy has all these misogynistic lyrics and stuff like that, complete disrespect for women. And some of his stuff like has been turned into relationship memes, and some of them are funny. They're hilarious. But despite having a gazillion baby mamas, despite treating women like garbage, there's still plenty of women lined up to be with him. They are so caught up in the fame, so caught up in the fortune, so caught up in, being drawn to the thug again, that they are willing to be with somebody like that. Another thing that this whole situation teaches you about is the importance of, birth control again. Like, because, when you have a child with somebody, first of all, that establishes a lifelong tie to that person. You're going to have to deal with that person in some form or capacity for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. That's why it's so important, again, to be very selective in who you choose to lay down with. He's going to have to deal with this woman that he wanted to kick out of his house for the rest of his life, as long as they had that child together. And she's going to have to deal with him, somebody that has no respect for her, somebody that treats her like trash. She's going to have to deal with that man for the rest of their life, for the rest of the child's life and everything. Another thing is you got like child support obligations that are going to come out of this situation. And you have a life that has been brought into a world in a messed up situation where the parents don't even like each other. And they're already starting at a disadvantage without having, two parents together that have respect and love for one another. So it's just a bad situation to be in. Another thing is this, like I want to address this whole thing about the police. Like here you got this rap artist who is who promotes this negative thug type lifestyle and image and all that kind of stuff. a quote, somebody that's supposed to be about the streets and all that kind of stuff. And we know one of the first codes of the streets is no snitching and all that kind of stuff. The last thing in the world that you would expect from somebody that quote unquote lives by that lifestyle or, uh, presents themselves in that kind of image, the last thing you would expect would be for them to run to the cops like a little punk and call the cops on a woman who just gave birth to their child. I mean, I just think that that is, soft. I think it's weak. I think it's punkified, sissified, and it's just ridiculous, man. Like, why couldn't he handle that situation in a better way instead of calling the police? And we know that often when you drag the police into these situations, it ends up worse than it started off. Sometimes when you call the police, somebody ends up getting beat up by the police or even worse, killed by the police because you couldn't handle your own affairs. Um, you had to run to the cops like a rat on your own uh, baby mother. And then the last thing I want to talk about is like this whole light skin privilege thing, like, from different angles. Like, first of all, like, I'll do it from the self hating black male perspective. So you got these self hating Negroes that get a little bit of status, a little bit of fame, get some money, and the first thing that they want to do is run to some white woman or to somebody that's virtually passing for white, somebody that's very light skinned and all that kind of stuff, because they have all these negative views of darker skinned women and black women in particular. So they think that they're finding some peace of mind, by being with some lighter skinned woman and stuff like this. And this is a prime example of how that's complete nonsense. Um, it's not about the skin complexion of the woman, it's about their character, what kind of person they are. It's about their personality. If they have a bad personality, it doesn't matter what skin color or skin, complexion they are. You're still going to have situations. So you can't, like some people like literally advocate for being with lighter skinned women and stuff like that, expressing the view that they're more attractive or they're more feminine and all that kind of stuff. And yet and still they find themselves in situations like this where they've run into the cops. They're kicking this woman out. Obviously she didn't meet those particular standards in this guy's mind for him to feel the need to call the police on her. So yeah, and then also you got the lighter skinned women that think that somebody's gonna put them on a pedestal because they're light skinned and treat them with all this respect and love simply because of the color of their skin. But at the end of the day, they end up being treated just like trash, just like any other woman that deals with these types of misogynistic men. So yeah, those are my little comments on that. A few lessons that can be learned from this situation. Tell me what you think. Please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content on here. Peace and blessings. Have a great day.